Now for something a little bit different. This is indeed the Domination map Death's Pass, but we do have full starting armies, myself and my opponent and patron Coops here. Yeah, this is essentially a modified Domination sort of house rules set that turns it into land battles with capture points. So we both got a full starting army with the equivalent funds of what you'd have in a normal land battle. And we are not allowed to resummon any units or bring in any reinforcements. So what you see in these armies is what you get. Let's go over them quickly here. Myself playing the Ogre Kingdoms, going full in on the memes here. We've got Greasus, Double Giant, along with a healer for at least one strong unit. Some bulls scattered around as well, Noblars, Trappers, and Saber-Tusk Pack. Again, the Scrap Launcher for some long range and chariot pressure up against the forces of Slaanesh. Oops, coming in here with a strong front line of Hellscourge Marauders. Got some Exalted Demonettes as well. Herald of Slaanesh plus an Allurus of Shadows. Over on the side, Heartseekers and more Hellstriders. Over here, similar. We've got Hellstriders and Hellscourges. So, Oops definitely showing his Slaanesh power recently. Let's see what we've got. So yeah, essentially it's just land battles with capture points is the idea. How well is it actually going to work in practice? We'll have to wait and see. I mean, you are missing a few things like army losses and some other mechanics and whatnot, but let's get up close with Greasus here. And laying on those cups has got to be uncomfortable. And could you imagine like the little rim of the cup right there, like digging into your belly fat? That's got to be very uncomfortable. But anyway, fashion aside here, you can see that Coops is taking a nice and wide enveloping stance on me here. I'm going to be poking away with the Scrap Launcher at whatever high-value soft targets we can get hands on here, or dirty, grubby mitts in the case of the Ogres. Got some Exalted Demonettes damage on them. Pretty good stuff so far. Both just kind of squaring up on this center objective. Again, it is sort of like a land battle. This used to be a land battle ladder map way back in the day, but recently, obviously, has been converted into Domination. The Heartstriders... Hellstriders, Heartseekers. Pulling up on the hill there, going to be looking down from the trees onto the terrain below. You can see I've just got my Saber-Tusks just kind of chilling for the time being in a somewhat defensive position, ready to respond to any imminent threats, but we're going to get a nice melee engagement going here. It is nice, Creative Assembly already confirmed in the update released yesterday that the starting funds for Domination will get larger even in regular Domination mode, so that will address one of the main issues people have with the mode in of itself, which is kind of the lack of the spectacle that you get, right? Here, the Hellscourge Marauders getting just absolutely pounded by Ogres. This is a very cost-effective engagement for the regular bulls. You can see the Scrap Launcher, also nice disruption charge comes through. But a huge buff going to get popped by Slaanesh here. Locus of Grace, giving melee defense and physical resistance to all of these units. That physical resistance in particular will help quite a bit against the heavy damage of the Ogres as the Marauder Spears try and hold up in that fight. We've got some summoned Furies online as well. If we take a look over here, these two calves momentarily being forgotten about. We definitely have come in and potentially got a rear charge, but again, I also have my Saber-Tusks in a position to potentially respond here. Giants should be doing just fine. Ogres are starting to take some damage, but we crump this frontline engagement pretty heavily here. The Hellscourge Marauders, despite their good melee defense, did get pounded pretty hard there with their low HP. Speaking of getting pounded, oh, look at the damage from the Heartseekers. Just absolutely ransacks, awful stomps all over these poor Saber-Tusk Pack right here. The one unit is going to get probably just straight up shattered. That being said, they are taking damage from the other unit. During that entire uptime, more Marauders coming through, collapsing and breaking some Ogre leadership. Ogre Bulls don't have the best leadership in the world, but a lack of terror from Slaanesh does mean that they're not too vulnerable. Likewise, I think Greasus also gives an immune to psychology in an AoE. Looks like no, actually not currently active. Maybe I didn't actually bring it. I don't remember. But anyway. In the back line, the Herald and the Allurus trying to get after that Scrap Launcher and at least shut it down. It's obviously not nearly as threatening as an Iron Blaster, but it fulfills a little bit of a similar role at a cheaper price point. Butcher is trying to defend here. He's going to go ahead and pop Bowl Gorger on himself. Go up to 64 melee attack, 446 weapon strength. Should be able to trade okay against that Allurus, especially if we can detach Greasus or one of these other big targets to go and assist there. That being said, the Giant kind of just keeping back somewhat defensively. threatening these units over here enough, but I figured the Saber Tusks probably get the job done. One unit does get crumped. The second unit comes in. I don't know if they're actually going to end up winning this fight. It's hard to say. Exalted Demonette's also coming down from the hill. A little bit late, perhaps, but better late than never, I suppose. Most of the Noblars are gone, so if they can get a good rear attack in here and clean up this big pocket of bulls, get a nice leadership route, that could be pretty beneficial. But right now, they are rushing in where the Giant is. Potentially going to be a rough situation, as there are still Noblars to screen. The Scrap Launcher can also fire in on this location. The Exalted Demonette's pulling away. They are much faster than the Giant, and even faster than the Ogre Infantry as well. But look at this. Only a short time. The Herald gets caught up, stuck to Greasus' belly. I know Koops is actually trying to disengage there, like spam clicking away, but because the responsiveness in this game is not what it needs to be, and units seem somewhat sticky. I'm not really sure exactly what's causing that, but the Herald does get sort of stuck to Greasus' belly and gets slapped down there. Unfortunate situation. And now at this point, I'm pretty far ahead on army damage. The capture points are not really going to come into play here necessarily. I mean, yes, it is technically still a domination game, and Koops is technically ahead on points, but by winning the battle, I've pretty much secured victory. I guess with these two factions, and we kind of realized this in hindsight, doing a land battle with capture points seems like it probably doesn't matter as much for these two factions, because neither of them are going to be heavily incentivized to kite. Like Slaanesh specifically, no factions are going to be able to kite versus them particularly easily because of that incredible speed. While Ogres do have some mobile shooting units, they're certainly not fast enough to get away from Slaanesh, and you don't have enough of them to reliably go for a full kite. So, you know, once we get, like, maybe try it with Kislev. Cathay doesn't kite, definitely, but Kislev might kite a little bit. Maybe Tzeentch a little bit as well, but definitely I'm curious to try out this format once we're able to get our hands on something like Wood Elves, you know, some of the other factions that, let's say, are the reason why we have the attacking rule in the first place for land battles, for regular tournaments. That being said, nice surround by Koops here. He's definitely still scrapping. Butcher is going to get absolutely taken out by the Hellstriders, and Eulora is still fighting, but here comes Greasus. He's got his big old mace, Scepter of Titans out. And here come the Noblar Trappers as well, going to be yeeting some daggers into that engagement before the Hellstriders get onto them. Even still, though, every dagger thrown is a pretty good amount of damage, certainly cost-effective. Oof, brutal scrap launcher shot just right into the center of those Hellstriders. Just got a whole bunch of model kills. That being said, the Hellstriders still probably paid for themselves. They're very cost-effective in this matchup when they can get good engagements, not get pounded by Ogres, but for the most part, Slaanesh be able to get pounded by Ogres. I mean, it is a tough matchup, so credit to Koops for even trying it. He was a willing participant in helping me just kind of test out this game mode and see if it would provide any meaningful difference from a regular land battle, or if it was basically just the same. I'm not really sure still. Jury's still out. I don't know if this is, like, wildly more useful. I think Anticity was actually planning on running a tournament in this style. I have also thought about running a tournament in this style, but after this sort of practice session of games, I decided probably against it, just because there's not really that many maps which work well enough to do it on. And again, a lot of the factions actually in the game right now don't necessarily really need capture points to enforce a rule set, because they're very melee-centric for the most part. So, you know, I guess this is still an option, something we could look into, but for this fact that Creative Assembly's listening and already making some improvements on domination, increasing the funds for the starting army and whatnot, not really sure if this will catch on. Hopefully they implement future. We're talking way later down the line. There certainly hasn't been any rumors of this, but just for my own wants and needs, I would like to see a dedicated mode made by Creative Assembly that features maybe just one central capture point activating after like 5 to 7 minutes of battle. I'm not really sure exactly what the best sort of setup would be, but it would be nice to see land battles with capture points in some capacity. I think that would satisfy sort of the best of both worlds. Some people might still prefer domination, but I think most of the Total War community would actually just prefer land battles with capture points. Hard to say. But anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this. Big thanks again to Koops for participating. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. See you next time.